A grand concert hall in Vienna falls into complete silence. The orchestra stops. A man stands on stage, not moving, because he cannot hear a single note. This is Ludwig van Beethoven. The audience is going wild behind him, but he doesn't even know it. Now cut. A child sits at a piano, playing faster than anyone in the room can understand. Kings, emperors, entire courts, watching in disbelief. This is Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. Two geniuses, two completely different worlds. One question remains. Was Beethoven actually better than Mozart? At 6 years old, he was already on the road, crossing the grand courts of Europe with his father Leopold orchestrating every step. The travel ledger from Salzburg lists payments for carriages and concert halls, but it also records something more remarkable, a 30 gulden fee paid directly to the child. Proof that Mozart was not just a curiosity, but a professional before he could even write his own name in full. In Vienna, Munich, Paris, and London, Mozart sat at the keyboard, dazzling kings and archbishops who had never witnessed such speed, such precision from so small a figure. Contemporary reviews describe a boy whose hands barely reached the keys, yet whose playing left entire rooms breathless. The Mozarteum's archive preserves a manuscript from when he was 8, signed in his own hand with a note from Leopold that reads, "By my son, 6 years old." But behind the prodigy was a system, Leopold's relentless planning, the court's open doors, the steady flow of payments and patronage. Mozart's childhood was a stage, and every performance reinforced his legend. He was not fighting for survival, he was being celebrated, paid, and protected. In this world, music came as easily as breathing. The path was not only open, it was paved. Mozart mastered music, Beethoven started breaking it. Ludwig van Beethoven's childhood unfolded in a world stripped of comfort and applause. Born in Bonn in 1770, he grew up in a cramped apartment above a tavern, where music was not a celebration but a demand. His father, Johann, a court singer with fading prospects, saw in his son not a prodigy to be cherished, but a last hope for the family's survival. The city's poor law records from 1781 name Johann as a recipient of charity, a blunt accounting of desperation. Beethoven's earliest memories were shaped not by royal courts, but by the echo of his father's fist on the door and the relentless insistence of the piano. A letter written in 1792 to his friend Karl Bernhard Mildner exposes the raw nerve of his upbringing. "My father beats me as he beats the drum. I'm forced to practice 12 hours a day." Each hour at the keyboard was not a privilege, but a sentence. There were no gilded carriages or velvet invitations, only the weight of expectation and the threat of hunger. The music that would one day shatter the boundaries of the classical world was forged in this crucible of discipline and fear. Unlike Mozart, who was groomed for brilliance, Beethoven was hammered into resilience. His talent was not a passport, but a shield. Every note he wrote was rebellion against silence, against poverty, against the limits imposed by circumstance. In hardship, Beethoven discovered the raw material that would fuel his later revolutions, struggle itself. The seeds of transformation were already there, waiting for the day when adversity would become his greatest source of power, each a testament to a mind that seemed to conjure perfection at will. The sheer breadth is staggering. Symphonies, operas, concertos, chamber pieces, sacred music, no genre left untouched, no form left unmastered. By his 18th birthday, Mozart had already written over 150 compositions, a level of output that most composers would not reach in a lifetime. But it is not just the quantity that astonishes. Mozart's music is a study in balance, a world where every phrase finds its answer, every motif its resolution. Nowhere is this more evident than in his Symphony No. 40 in G minor, K. 550. The opening bars unfurl a four-note motive in the violins, answered a fifth below by the woodwinds, like a conversation perfectly mirrored. The harmony moves with elegant inevitability, a simple I-V-I progression, each phrase closing in a cadence that feels as natural as breathing. The architecture is transparent, the logic unbroken. Even as the development section ventures into distant keys, the sense of direction never wavers. Each modulation is carefully measured, each rhythmic pulse a step forward on solid ground. This is the heart of the classical ideal. Clarity, proportion, and restraint are rendered with a touch so light it feels inevitable. In the slow movement of the piano concerto in A major, K378, Mozart spins a lyrical line within a ternary form, introducing a fleeting chromatic twist before returning home undisturbed. The effect is not cold perfection, but living grace. Mozart's mastery lies in making complexities sound effortless, in shaping music that seems to exist outside of struggle, untouched by gravity. As the choral numbers climb, the catalogue becomes a monument to what human hands can build when guided by genius and discipline in equal measure. Here, beauty is not wrestled from chaos, it is simply revealed. In October 1802, Beethoven sat in a village outside Vienna and wrote what he believed might be his final words. The Heiligenstadt Testament, stained with despair, confesses the agony of a composer facing the loss of his hearing. "O you men who think or say that I'm malevolent, stubborn, or misanthropic, how greatly you wrong me." Deafness for a musician is a sentence of exile. Yet, in that same document, Beethoven vows to live for his art, to find victory in the very struggle that threatened to silence him. From that moment, Beethoven's music transformed. The world of elegant symmetry shattered. In 1808, the first 4 notes of his Fifth Symphony, short, 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 long, cracked open the door to a new universe. This motif, so stark and relentless, is not just a theme, but a force of will. It recurs, mutates, and drives the entire symphony forward, as if Beethoven is wrestling with fate itself. Where Mozart's phrases resolve with grace, Beethoven hammers at the walls, demanding to be heard. As his hearing faded, his ambition only grew. In 1824, Beethoven unveiled his Ninth Symphony. For the first time in history, a symphony's finale exploded into song, a full chorus erupting with Schiller's Ode to Joy. The orchestra swelled, voices joined, and music transcended its own boundaries. Deaf, Beethoven stood on stage, unable to hear the applause that shook the hall. But the world heard him. He had turned suffering into revolution, despair into triumph, and silence into the loudest cry for humanity ever written. Where Mozart mastered music, Beethoven broke it open and rebuilt it for everyone who came after. To measure Mozart and Beethoven, 2 questions must be asked. First, who mastered more? Second, who changed more? Along the first axis breadth, Mozart's catalogue spans every form of his age. Symphony, opera, concerto, sonata, string quartet, sacred mass. Each bears his signature. Each reveals a mind that could inhabit any style and make it sing. As the musicologist Neil Zaslaw put it, Mozart's facility with counterpoint, harmonic adventure, and formal architecture is unmatched. His genius was comprehensive, a universe of forms brought to perfection. Along the second axis, innovation, Beethoven stands as the disruptor. He did not just write symphonies, he exploded their boundaries. The fifth is not a refinement, but a detonation. The ninth is not a conclusion, but a new creation. Where Mozart embodied mastery, Beethoven embodied revolution. These are not minor differences. They are 2 models of what it means to be extraordinary. Beethoven's shadow stretches across centuries, reshaping the very language of music. Schubert, still a young man in Vienna, carried a torch to Beethoven's grave and confessed that no one could do anything after him. Berlioz took up the baton, unleashing symphonies that thundered with Beethoven's spirit, and Brahms spent decades wrestling with the legacy of those 9 symphonies, admitting that you have no idea what it is like to hear the footsteps of a giant behind you. The lineage is unmistakable. Each composer, in turn, was forced to answer the challenges Beethoven posed. He did not simply add new works to the shelf, he changed the terms of greatness itself. So the question remains, hanging in the silence after the last chord. Is the measure of a composer found in the perfection of what came before, or in the force that compels all who follow to begin again? The answer perhaps is not in the music alone, but in the tremor it leaves behind. Mozart mastered music. Beethoven started breaking it. Today, we still measure genius by two shadows: perfection versus transformation. Mozart showed what music could be. Beethoven showed what it could become. That conflict shapes every note we hear and every creative risk we dare to take. What defines greatness now?